Hey everybody, welcome back. Today we're going to do a mesh-up of sorts with a Create Monster head and a Venus. We're going to remove the face with good old 100% acetone and a cotton swab, and remove her ears. Because we won't be needing them, they'll be covered anyway, so we'll save them for another project. We're going to sand off the molded underwear. We don't need them because of the design. They'll show through and we don't want that. Now we can start the Worbla transition. First, I'm putting up some tin foil to aid in taking up some of the space. I use a heat gun and flat iron to heat up the Worbla to shape it into what I want it to be. We're going to make a little snake of Worbla and add it to the crown of the doll. Well, the new crown of the head. Putting these strips to give more aid, futuristic look. Can you guess what we're making today? An alien. Not just any alien, but head of the invaders. No, not the tallest from Invader Zim, our own alien. We're making ears to go attached to the helmet only because I want it to look as if it has a molded ear underneath. I'm putting a snake of epoxy sculpt so that we can do more detailed designs. You can barely see here, but I am etching in a kind of an arrow point along the sides, which will be more visible once we put some paint. You'll be able to see the definition. It's a detail that's worth doing for the end result. Just trust the process. I'm smoothing it as I go along and putting details, etching in triangles as I go along. It's hard to see because it's so light, but the details are definitely there. Here I'm sanding her back so that we can add another snake of epoxy sculpt. It will adhere better that way. Smoothing it down while also continuing to add detail. She can't have enough details in this design. Adding another snake to her neck to smooth it down as much as we can. And then adding some really precise cuts to make scales in the front of her neck. Adding some clay to her elbow to make an armored elbow and sculpting that to a slight point, but not exactly. I kind of want it to look like the beginning of her glove. If you are enjoying my art, please consider subscribing. I do a lot of this fun stuff out of the box. I made a scepter off screen with 4 pieces of Worbla, some epoxy sculpt, 2 gems, and a skewer stick. Skewer. Haha. I know her paint job looks a little crazy, but trust the process. It's gonna look better. It's gonna look completely normal. We're just doing a bunch of thin layered of watered down yellow paint. She's just in her awkward phase. Don't mind her.
It's looking a little bit different this filthier day. Wait a minute.
Now it's time for blushing. There's going to be a lot of blushing on her because I want her to seem like she's glowing of iridescent without putting iridescent paint or micro powder on her. We're just going around her crown, along her eyebrows. She's going to have sort of a design on her forehead, so we have to put a lot of heavy blush of green so we can etch out with a kneaded eraser the design. Adding blush to her jawline to make it nice and crisp. Everything about the design is meant to pull your eye in, so I'm dragging all of the harsh lines from her cheekbone to the center. Everything draws to a different area. I want a lot of movement in this doll. So I'm doing as much as possible to draw the eyes to where I want you to look. I started blushing the lips the color, and originally I was going to just do a simple lip, but I eventually changed my mind and started blushing it out so that we could do a ombre effect with green lip liner. I'm just putting down a layer to make sure it's even and saturated, and cleaning it up with a kneaded eraser for clean lines. Did you know that history has not been able to figure out who actually invented the kneaded eraser? There's like 6 different people's names, and that they used to use moist bread to erase things on paper. Okay, now to paint some stuff black. We're going to do a bunch of details. Black, not everything, but some of it, just so we can get an idea of making sure we are going in the direction we want to. Here's that detail. You can really see it now that it's dry, of course. This is the next day because epoxy sculpt takes 24 hours to harden. You can paint it sooner than that. See, look at that. That looks so cool. Okay, now we're putting lime green to give a glow effect, just like you would with makeup. I watch a lot of makeup tutorials and hair tutorials to learn what makes their certain features on the face pop, where on the body do the lights hit the most, stuff like that. So we're just hitting the very peak of the cheekbones, the peak of the nose and chin, and then the center for the detailed design. I'm switching out her arms for Abbey arms from Sweet Screams, but don't get used to the purple because we're painting it black. Let's make some armor out of Worbla. We're going to use Ghoulia's body as a mannequin. You want to put saran wrap around the body so it doesn't stick. You can pop it off the body, but it might have some difficulty. It just makes life a little easier. I'm adding a strip just to give more detail. I'm not going to smooth it into the top of the chest cup because I want it to be rigid. I'm trying to keep it cohesive with the idea of this being futuristic and not robotic. Futuristic is just futuristic. And so I'm trying to make sure I stay within those lines. See, I'm struggling, right? Just like I said I would, because it's still hot. Wait a little bit and then I'll have to rip it off, but I had the saran wrap off because I had to get in between the chest. See, the back of it is rough because I had to yank it off to get it off the body. Like I said, if you wait for it to cool, you might not have the problem, but depending on the design, it might rip off. I'm starting to put everything together. We got the little shoulder cups. I'm not sure what they're called. I might actually research that afterwards. We're just making sure that it fits and hugs to the neck. That's the most important part for me, for the neck area. is that it doesn't look like it just drops off out of nowhere, as if it is one piece to the scales and the actual shoulder pads. Off camera, I painted Abby's arms black and put some stripes on the ribs with watercolor pencil, darkening them with pan pastels. Adding some depth to her eyes, I added white as an inverted eyeliner and adding some white pan pastels to the light shines of her eyes. Now I draw the design on her legs. I'm sketching it out in a dark green first so I can know where I want to put them permanently. I want to make it almost like a water reflection, but not quite exactly like water, so I'm kind of following the same method you would making the appearance of water reflecting off the surface. When drawing, you would do lines that crisscross, and in the corners you would round them so that there was no sharp points where they connect. This is going to serve as her complexion. If you like my art, please consider subscribing. I'd really appreciate it. Tap the bell for more notifications. I'm going to do the same method I did on her rib cage, where I put watercolor pencils on and then darken it with a black pan pastel. I think it's shaping up nicely. We're just going to keep going until it's completely saturated to my liking. So I made a few 3D files for her. I made shoes, an articulated tail, and a crown. I'm not sure how the crown is going to fit on her head, but I'm going to try it and see if I like it. If I don't, then I have a crown for a different project. Don't mind the Baywatch lifeguard buoy back there, that's for a different project. The commission, in fact. Here I wanted to show you how it usually renders. I wanted to show you how it renders the STL file, just in case you guys were curious or thinking about getting into 3D sculpting yourself.
Four hours later.
Here I have all of my tools, my alcohol, and that I need to get this off of the plate sanded and prepped. It gives me a little trouble because the plate is well loved, very well loved, but we eventually get it off. It just takes a little bit of finessing. And you don't want to be too harsh because you can mess up your actual print. I auto-generate my supports because I'm partially don't know how to and partially don't want to know how to put the supports on. I mainly just adjust afterwards. It's half and half. But we get it off there this way gently because it can rip a hole into an area if it's too thin for the support moving around. We dipped it in an alcohol bath. This rubbing alcohol is 90% rubbing alcohol. We're just going to clip off the supports. I had the bright idea of, if I clip them all off, will I remember what order they came in? No, I won't. So that's why we got this string, and as we take them off, we're going to put them directly on the string to keep them in the order that I sculpted them. We're taking them one by one, making sure they're all sanded, all the supports are off, and checking for any dips from the support. Taking some of the sculpture with it, but I'm not going to make you watch the whole entire time. I'm just going to show you a couple of them and move on. These are the shoes I had designed for her. Originally I had the heel hollow and I couldn't get the supports off without ripping the actual sculpt, so we had to put in an actual solid base. This is the very tip of the tail that I made. I'd rather make the hole too small than to make it too big, and then try to make up for that. So we're drilling a hole bigger and making our own little handmade hoop, because it's so tiny, and as you see, there really wasn't any hoop for me already made. I decided last minute to flip one of the tail scales in order to hide some of the ring anchor. In order to hide some of the anchor from being visible. You can still see it a little bit, but less obvious that way, with it flipped that way. Never mind that fall. You didn't see me drop that. You didn't see nothing. So we're adding some UHU glue to the very center. It's been the new craze in the doll community. Don't mind my nails, that's a hard working hand right there. I chipped a lot of black. I don't know why I chipped the black, and the other hand's fine. It didn't want to cooperate. I connected the base of her tail with UHU glue, and I had sat it aside while we were sanding. I flipped the elastic and fed it through the base with some help of a nail glue and rubbing it between my two fingers. Now we're going to tie it off with a double knot and make sure we're happy with the movement. Now that I'm satisfied, I can clip off the extra. I did her lashes off camera because, hopefully you were watching my previous videos where I did lashes, but just in case you didn't, I just attached them with Mod Podge glue using a lash check technique. And with that, she's all done. My alien invader came out so wonderful. I'm so proud of her. I'm so proud of me making an articulated tail. I really was putting off making it, and I finally made it, and I'm just so happy with it. The shoes too. I think she came out great. What do you guys think? If you haven't subscribed yet, please consider subscribing. I make a lot of wonderful art. Thank you once again to my current subscribers. You guys are awesome. You are the best community an artist could ever ask for. Make sure to click the bell to get more notifications of when I post. I post always on Sundays for the most part, at least once a month at minimum. I've been posting more often, so you could be happy to see me at least every 2 weeks, maybe every week, depending on what I'm working on. Thanks for stopping by. I love you guys. Bye.